Hi there, I'm Lilian, a wellness coach and consultant and de-stress expert. And today's video is on stress management for the midlife woman. So what does it mean to manage your stress when you're in midlife? It could mean different things. But first of all, I'm just going to share a bit about what stress is, what it isn't, the effects of chronic stress and how it affects midlife women, particularly when in the process of perimenopause and menopause as well. So who am I? So like I mentioned, my name's Lilian. I'm a wellness coach, consultant and de-stress expert. I've been working in the health wellness industry for over 20 years. And I help women, professional and business women, to reduce stress, regain calm and energy, and prevent burnout so that they can live and work with more calm, energy, and rest and balance in their lives, and as well as being able to cope with the demands of everyday life. So why I do what I do is because I myself had two experiences of stress-related health crisis. The first was 10 years ago. I burnt out from stress, from working way too many hours each day. I was running 3 busy massage clinics, a successful business, and then one day my body just said, no, enough. We're not doing it anymore. I'd ignored the signs of stress, I ignored the signs of chronic stress, and that led to my burnout. And even though I had pivoted my work, my business, to be working mainly online with my clients, I was still working 12+ hour days in my head. So I didn't know how to switch off, I didn't know how to rest. And that in itself led towards a stress-related health crisis that admitted me to hospital. I had severe anemia. In fact, I had no iron in me. I had very high blood pressure and I had a very high overactive thyroid. So I had to rest, and it was out of rest that I learned around the concept of doing what I now call pause and breathe, where I help women to pause, breathe and reconnect back to their mental, their physical, spiritual and emotional selves. So that's why I do what I do. So why stress management at midlife is important? Simply because, as you see, we're living a life of busyness. The majority of people, women, are living a life of busyness, hurriedness. Every woman that I speak to, when I ask them, how are you? Oh, I'm busy. Oh, I'm stressed. One lady said to me, Lilian, I'm living a rushed life, where whatever I'm doing from the moment I open my eyes till I close my eyes, it's rush, rush, rush. Is this the case for you? Perhaps you can relate. Maybe you're saying, yes, Lilian, you're speaking about me. You know, it's vitally important for us to take care of our health and our well-being, and to recognize the signs of stress, because we can go through life running, rushing, busy, and ignore the subtle signs of stress, ignoring the headaches, ignoring the tension in the body, being oblivious to how tired we're feeling. Subtle signs like the irritability, not being able to make conscious decisions, the depression, joints are feeling achy, muscles are feeling achy, and we're putting that down to old age, where in fact these are signs and symptoms of stress. The breathlessness, not being able to breathe effectively, the weight gain around the middle, these are all signs of stress. The disease, the diabetes, the high blood pressure, the overactive and underactive thyroid symptoms, the illnesses, the colds, the frequent flus, the exhaustion, these are all signs and symptoms of stress. And it's really important for us to wake up and not ignore these, because if we ignore them, then they only become worse and or they will lead towards burnout, as was my case, or a stress related health crisis, as again was my case. So this is why it's really important for us as women to just pay attention to our stress, to the signs and symptoms, and take a step back and say, hold on a minute, my body is speaking to me, or I'm not feeling my usual self, or these symptoms, I've never experienced them before. I wonder what that's about. And you can always, what we call, join the dots. Look at the lifestyle that you're living. Are you living fast, busy and hurried? Are you always feeling like you're under pressure, under tension? Do you find that you're more irritable than usual? Your energy levels have dipped and you just find it a real struggle to get your energy levels back up, but you're putting it down to, oh, you know, it's old age. Oh, it's the menopause. Oh, I'm perimenopausal. That could be slightly true, but more than likely it's to do with stress. So what exactly is stress? Well, stress, a definition of stress is where there's a perception. It's a perception of the mind. It's a belief that whatever we see in front of us or around us is a perceived threat. So, for example, it could be in your job, maybe a colleague that you're working with, you don't really get on well with them, or your workload seems a bit pressurizing, or your children or your family are a bit, you know, all over the place. And you're just like, why is this all happening to me? And you're feeling a sense of fear, a sense of threat. That can trigger off the fight and flight stress response in us, where we feel like, you know, oh my goodness, tense, or you want to freeze, or you want to fight and get away from that thing that feels really terrifying. Or it might be causing levels of anxiety or overwhelm or worry. That is your fight-flight response. And it's a protective mechanism to protect us, because your body and your brain perceives, she's feeling these sensations, these feelings, let's protect her. So that's where your nervous system heightens up in order to protect you. That's great when there's an emergency, like you go to cross the road and a car comes speeding down and you quickly jump out the way. That's great. An emergency, you know, alert in your body. But when your fight and flight stress response is consistent and your body is constantly releasing the stress hormones of adrenaline, of cortisol, your insulin levels are being raised high to help you with that fight and flight stress response, it becomes dangerous to our mind and body. It becomes dangerous to our health and our well-being, because the more our body senses stress and releases those stress hormones, the more chances we have of developing what we call modern day diseases, stress-related diseases, high cholesterol, diabetes, hypertension, thyroid issues, rashes, coming out in rashes, severe anemia, all sorts of diseases that are related. Our mental composition as well, depression, Alzheimer's, some cancers as well, stroke, heart attacks, Parkinson's disease, so many stress-related diseases that we can brush aside and think, no, that, you know, is not down to stress. It is said that a majority of modern day diseases are stress-related. They're rooted in stress. Deal with the stress, you deal with the disease. So, types of stress. There are various types of stress. There's one stress that I mentioned, which is acute stress, where it helps us in moments of emergency, where we need to get out the way for something. There's chronic stress, where the stress is consistent every day, every hour. You're feeling the tension, you're feeling under stress, you're feeling the pressure. That's chronic stress. Then there's other types of stresses like thermal stress, where you're in and out of different temperatures, like very, very cold to very, very hot. There's chemical stress, where in your environment there's lots of chemical pollution that causes stress to the body. There's different subtle types of stress where the stress is just not conducive to your way of working, especially if you're a highly sensitive person and you've got a sensitive nervous system, and you feel instantly stressed at loud noises, alarm systems going off, or you just feel the subtle changes in different environments that feel uncomfortable to your body. So those are just some examples of different types of stresses. And I've mentioned the symptoms of stress as well. And some other symptoms of stress is that you may be oblivious to. Maybe your hair is falling out. Maybe, like I mentioned earlier, high levels of anxiety, problems sleeping, your skin coming out in rashes or eczema, excessive dryness of your skin. That can be signs and symptoms of stress. Feeling like you're not able to cope, that everything is on top of you. Those are signs and symptoms of stress, that you've gone beyond your stress threshold. And then we got the ultimate symptom of stress, which is burnout. Now, as I mentioned, I suffered with burnout, and burnout could come with you just don't feel great about yourself. You feel like you've got nothing left to give. You feel exhausted, and you just feel like, no, I can't take on any more. You feel like you're crumbling inside. That is burnout. So the effects of chronic stress when you're menopausal, even when you're perimenopausal, can be detriment to our health and well-being. And the two can be confused. The symptoms of stress and the symptoms of menopause can seem as if they're the same, and at times they can be. So some symptoms of stress and menopausal symptoms. Brain fog. If you see me looking away, it's because I'm looking at my sheet so that I can give you the right information. So brain fog, headaches, tension headaches as well, anxiety, moving slower. You just feel sluggish, like, oh my goodness, I feel like I've got weights in my leg or on my back. I can't move quickly enough. Heart palpitations, mood swings, joint and muscle pain, depression, excessive dry skin, as I've mentioned before, painful and tender breasts, disturbed sleep patterns, tiredness, feeling lethargic. Let us not forget the hot flushes, hot flushes, the night sweats. These can be so detriment to us. And when we're stressed as well, the symptoms of menopause and perimenopause can be exacerbated. So maybe you may find that the hot sweats, the night sweats may come on more than they did before. And you think, oh my goodness, why am I feeling this so much? The brain fog is just like constant. And you're just like, why can I not get a clear mind? Or perhaps the heart palpitations are just going at 100 miles per hour. It feels like you're having a heart attack. All the symptoms I mentioned are symptoms that I have experienced, being perimenopausal, as well as what led up towards my stress-related health crisis. So the two can be quite confused. So it's understanding that when you're going through this change of the perimenopause and the menopause, that some of the symptoms that you may be feeling, and especially if they feel worse than what they did previously, could actually be symptoms of stress. So it's really important to discern which is which, because when we are in the realm of chronic stress as well, what happens is, because the body is so busy releasing the stress hormones of cortisol, adrenaline and other stress hormones, as well as heightening up the insulin hormone. What happens is our personal female hormones of estrogen and progesterone gets lowered. It gets shunted down because it's not important to keep us alive. You see, the body, when you're in chronic stress, the body's job is to keep you alive. Estrogen and progesterone are only for reproduction in the body, i.e. making babies. So the body just says, no, we don't need that. And on top of that, it will also shut down the function of your reproductive organs, your fallopian tubes, your uterus. So this is why if you're still having periods, that you will find that, oh, my period has been missed, or I haven't had period for a while. Obviously, when you're menopausal, you're not going to have periods. But if you're perimenopausal, you know, you could go for a while and then you think, oh, maybe I am menopausal now. And then all of a sudden, after a stressful period, after a stressful time, your period shows up. It's because when you're constantly stressed and you're in chronic stress, your body shuts down what is not important. It will shut down your digestive system as well, because it doesn't need it for you to be alive. It doesn't need you to fight that threat in front of you. It doesn't need the digestive system for you to run away from the threat. I hope that makes sense. So these are some of the effects that happen in our body and that can happen to us during times of perimenopause and menopause. So what I do with my ladies is we do a system called Pause and Breathe. Pause and Breathe is a method, as I mentioned earlier, is a method that came to me by chance as I spent time resting during the time I came out of hospital. I took 6 months off from my business, and then beyond that I took a further few months just to rest my body, because that's what my body needed. And it was out of that I learned how to breathe. Now, it might seem silly, you think, learn how to breathe, but we always breathe. We do breathe, but we don't breathe in a quality state. When you're stressed, chances are that you're breathing shallow, or you're doing what we call holding your breath. Now, by learning to pause, take time out, and to breathe, we actually help the body to release the stress and lower the stress hormones and the insulin as well. We also signal to our bodies that it's safe. We're not under any perceived threat, but we're actually safe. So the body can shift out of that fight and flight stress response and shift into a space of rest, digest, and recovery mode. So, for example, we can be taking in nice deep breaths through the nose, breathing in deeply, and gently breathing out through the mouth. I invite you to breathe with me right now. So make yourself nice and comfortable in your chair or in your seat. Breathe in gently through the nose, into the belly, and now gently breathe out through the mouth. Good. And again, gently breathe in through the nose and gently breathe out through the mouth. And one more time. Gently breathe in through the nose and gently breathe out through the mouth. Just release any tension from the body. Wonderful. How does that feel? I'm sure you're feeling a lot more relaxed. And this is what I do with my ladies. This is just one example of a breathwork technique that I do with the ladies. And every time we take time out to pause and to breathe, reconnecting our minds and our bodies, we find that the stress just starts to reduce and dissipate. And it's a place where we can regenerate our calm, regenerate energy, and connect to feeling balanced and as well as rested as well. So that's all for today's video. If you'd like to know more about my pause and breathe method, do send me a message. You can contact me on my Linktree site, which is Linktree/Lilian_Lartey, Lartey. And within my Linktree site, you can find out more about my pause and breathe method, which I run every week, every Wednesday at 12 noon UK time and 8 p.m. UK time. We gather on Zoom for 20 minutes where we literally pause and breathe. And there's a range of breathing and breathwork techniques that we go through in order to help us slow down, rest, breathe, and rebalance. That's all for now. I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Take care. Bye.